Did life turn out the way you expected? I mean, seriously, is this it? Welcome to No Two Gays About It, the show for the over 50 gay male, all about topics that are important to the over 50 gay male, and hosted by two well over 50 gay men. Hi, I'm Tom Burke.
And I'm Peggy Lee. Is that all there is?
I love that song. That's where we're going to go, Peggy. Today, we're going to take a look at where we are in life and where we're headed by asking and answering a few questions. The first one is, are you where you thought you'd be at this age? The second is, where do you see yourself in, let's say, 5 years? And the third one is, at this age, is there anything we can do to change it?
That's a lot of questions.
A lot of questions. Are you financially ready for this next chapter in your life? I thought that I was until I had a conversation with Kirk Bremer. Kirk, who lives with his husband in Colorado, is a financial advisor with the Maverick Wealth Group. And talking with Kirk was fantastic. First of all, he's part of the community, so there was no need for those awkward explanations about being gay or preferred pronouns. And Kirk creates a safe and supportive space, so you really feel comfortable talking about your financial future. Whether you're fully prepared or completely unprepared, Kirk is kind and understanding and will meet you wherever it is you are. A consultation with Kirk doesn't ensure that you're going to be floating around the Mediterranean in your private yacht, but you will leave there feeling less confused and more confident in your financial future. So whether you're fully retired or you're just starting to think about it, or you're worrying that it's never going to happen for you, do yourself a favor. Have a conversation with Kirk Bremer. You will be glad you did. Sponsored by Kirk Bremer, AIF, with Maverick Wealth Group, 720-688-3844, www.maverickwealthgroup.com, 123 G Street, Suite 206, Salida, Colorado, 81201. Securities offered through Parkland Securities, LLC. Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through SPC, a registered investment advisor. Maverick Wealth Group is independent of Parkland Securities, LLC, and SPC.
So now on to the questions.
All right, Michael, so let's go to the very first question is, are you where you thought you would be in life at this age?
Now, are we talking like from a teenager, from our 30s, from what perspective are we looking at it? Or just anyone I choose? Okay.
Anyone you choose, yeah.
I'm going to go when I was younger, when I was a kid, who didn't have much of a life in front of him. And where I've gone and what I've done in my life has been pretty remarkable. And so am I where I thought I would be? I don't think I ever thought I would have had the experiences I've had. So I'm really kind of proud of a lot of stuff I've accomplished.
Okay.
How about you? Like where are you going to sit and tell us?
Well, I think it is different. Any era that you're looking at. As a kid, obviously, no, I never thought I would be doing this. I certainly have, for in my teens, 20s, 30s, and on, I certainly have achieved a lot of the goals that I set out to achieve, but am I actually where I thought I would be in life? No, not in any era. I mean, even if we went back 5 years and asked this second question we're going to ask, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Palm Springs was not even on the radar. 5 years ago, I would not even have thought to even think about Palm Springs. And yet,
that's interesting for me. It was, I think it was always in the back of my head that I would wind up here, coming from LA.
Yeah.
So what caused that sharp left turn for you guys to wind up here?
Well, it definitely was COVID was part of it.
Okay.
Started, us thinking, as Peggy Lee asked, is that all there? Is this it? Like, is this our forever home? Is this what we're going to do? We were home together, like we were retired. So we kind of saw the future and thought, is this really, really where we want to be? And then we started talking, and my husband stayed in Los Angeles probably 30 years longer than he wanted to for me. So I had to step up and say, well, where do you want to go? Where, as long as I'm not going to be cold, where
Yes.
do you want to go?
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, that's what brought us here. But as for other things though in life, career wise, whatever, does anybody end up where they thought they were going to be?
You know what? Honestly, I don't think so. Because let's say in my 20s, right? I had a very corporate job, and if I had sat in that, and I really could have built this great career because I was an operations manager at the age of 24, the youngest one at AIG, the corporation that I worked for. But then, like you, there was this sharp left in my life, and I had an opportunity to throw myself into the entertainment industry and move to California. And, I quit my job at Prudential at that point. I left AIG and went to Prudential and quit my job on my 28th birthday. And 3 days later was driving cross country. Biggest leap of faith I've ever taken in my life.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just think if you're willing to go with where life is sort of pushing you as opposed to resisting and staying stuck. Because I know
Right.
now, my God, if I had stayed in that corporate job, I, I shudder to think what my
Y-
life would have been. And I don't think I would have been happy because I did love the people I worked with. I didn't necessarily love the job.
Right. Well, okay, I've got a question though. I know a lot of guys and girls actually from college that I went to college with who got on a pathway in college and had planned out their lives. My one roommate, he went to law school, then he, got in the law firm. By the time of whatever age he wanted to be partner, then he wanted to have his own law firm, then he was at whatever age he was going to be a judge. Like he's on that pathway. He is ending up where he wanted to be. So my question for you is it different because we're gay?
That's a good question because I do think we throw ourselves out of the nest, especially our generation.
Yeah.
We threw ourselves out of the nest. We weren't pushed out. We threw ourselves out because we needed to find our own community. And that opened up so many different doors, right?
Right. But also the lives that were modeled for us, when we realized we were gay, we realized we weren't going to be getting married to the girl in the sorority and having kids and that life that was modeled, because we never saw gay couples or out and proud gay men when we were children. Anyone over, definitely over 60, we didn't have that future modeled for us. So we kind of had to not only throw ourselves out of the nest or run away from that nest, but then create our own vision of what a future was. Does that make
Well,
sense?
and our own families.
Oh God, yeah.
Oddly
Right.
enough, in the 80s, when I came out, I was friends with a lot of couples. And I always envisioned myself, married. There was a point where I genuinely wanted children. I might still like swing that if I, found a partner.
Oh, I'm sorry, honey. You're a little old for
You
changing
know what?
diapers.
I got at least a good 20 years left in me, I think. So
Yeah, but
I'm
is that
not,
fair to the kid?
if you, why wouldn't it be fair to the kid? If I could adopt a child who was 4 or 5 or 10 and
Okay,
provide them with a loving, safe environment, oh my
right.
God, I couldn't think of anything more fair for a child.
No, I just having I had an older father.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't like that guy who was out throwing balls for the kid and doing all that kind of dad
Yeah.
stuff. So I always thought of that. Like, I wish I had a younger dad. I loved my father. My father was awesome, but I did feel like I missed out on some of that. And this is the joke, okay? I had an older father. My father was 37 when I was born, right? But back then, that was an old dad, you
Yeah.
know?
Because I was just going to
So-
say, I had a younger father, and quite frankly, he sucked. So,
right. Yeah, no, I get
it,
it.
it is what it is. But you're right. Isn't it funny to look back into, oh my God, I remember when
Yeah,
my mother turned 40, it was like death was right around the corner.
yeah, right.
So it's so funny how perspective changes now that we're
Well,
in our 50s
just
and 60s and thriving and like so vital.
right.
I could
I
go
mean,
out and
just
play
think
tennis for
of
3 hours, and I'm good.
think of what our grandparents or friends' grandparents actually looked like and the clothes that they wore. And they were probably 50,
Yeah.
Like that's nuts.
Yeah,
But
well, it's not only it's the way they acted.
oh, totally.
You know, I
Yeah.
think I think nowadays guys our age don't necessarily buy into the mindset, "You're old." You know, our bodies
Right.
may be a little clunky, but in our minds, let's be real, we're still in our 20s and 30s. And, there's still a lot of things that I really want to do in my life. So, you know,
Well, okay. So just to round out this question of, are you where you thought you were going to be? Is there anything about your life, obviously living in Palm Springs for you is, but anything else that you really saw years and years and years ago that this is what I want? I want to be this by the time I get to be 60 or 70 or 80 or whatever.
well, I mean, I do know that like when I was in my mid 20s, I knew I would be in California. Don't
Hmm.
ask me how, because like I didn't have a real plan on how to get there. But I think when you put stuff out, sometimes the universe opens doors, and if you pay attention, and don't resist, uh,
Right.
I think sometimes the ride, it's like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. It's a little
Oh,
scary,
yeah.
it's a little dark at times, but in the long run, I think it's a really great thing. Like in
Oh,
your in your
I
20s,
totally,
were you
I,
were you looking at California as a place to live? Was that
God, no, no,
no?
not at all. I thought, I would be this older, more, dashing older man living in my penthouse in New York City. I loved living in New York, but, um, I too agree that life is fluid and it keeps changing,
Yeah.
and you got to get on that pathway with them and change with it. I'm also been a huge believer in if a door opens, walk in,
Yeah.
try it. If you
It's
don't
like,
like it,
don't fight
leave.
the river, right?
Right.
Don't fight the river, go for the ride.
Yeah.
I mean, you might get banged up by the rocks in some areas, but, I think when you come out to the calmer waters, you look back and go, "Wow, that was really worth it."
It was awesome, right?
Yeah.
But I also did, while being on that wild ride, I did make sure that there were certain goals I was achieving so that by the time I did get to this age, I would have certain things. So yes, there are certain things that even as a kid in his 20s had planned out that by the time I get to be 60, this better, and yeah, I made a lot of those things happen while being on that ride. And for me, that was very important.
Well, here's one of those interesting differences between you and I, because you were partnered at a very young age. I think for a lot of us guys who were out in the community and who were, involved in activism, we weren't really sure that we were going to make our 40s or 50s or 60s. So I think maybe
Right.
there's a different view from folks like me. Maybe that's why I've always gone balls to the wall and just sort of lived. Um,
Right, but don't you think you got to a point like, yes, we all lived through the AIDS crisis and that was
horrendous.
overwhelming for all of us. It was just horrendous. But and yes, it did kind of show us your future is not promised for
No,
you. However, there came that point where okay, there's the, drug cocktails out and now people are living and it's not so much a crisis anymore. And now it's not AIDS, we're talking about HIV and living with it. So at some point, though, you have to be like, okay, well, I do now see a future in front of me.
there definitely was a different view once the
Yeah,
mid aughts came about and medications were changing for people who were positive. It's just a weird thing because there's uh, uh, I don't know, maybe it's a personality trait that there are some of us who aren't like you and aren't real planners and just fly
right.
by the seat of our pants. But I know the 80s had that effect on me. Watching my friends, my contemporaries die in their 20s was truly traumatic and changed my perspective on life.
Yeah,
And that's why I love to travel. And I am so blessed that I got to travel the world when I was younger. And I did it with them with me
yeah,
because of that. And everywhere I go, they're with me. And, as much as a horrible experience those years were, it was in a lot of ways a gift to those of us who are still here. because we do tend to look differently at life. So I don't, honestly don't think I planned my whole life. I don't think I've planned more than like a year in advance. I just don't, because as life has shown me, I'm really never sure of where I'm going to wind up. And I
Right.
think that's kind of a fun thing. And I know
Oh,
for some people, that's a really sketchy and scary way to live. Because again, another one of those areas we're so different. Um,
well, I mean, I said I have lived that exact same way. Like I am so open for whatever. Look at me, I'm in Palm Springs. Never thought about this, but there were certain things that I did have to have
yeah,
set.
and there are
But
two of you, so
yeah,
you like it's different when you're solo. You could just pick up and go. I don't have to worry about the cat. I don't have to worry about my husband. You know,
yeah,
where you guys,
yeah. How lucky are you? Like that's a lot to have to not think about. You can't just think about yourself.
yeah. I mean, and that's the interesting dynamic,
But
between the two of
what's
us.
really interesting, Michael, is that in all of my like looking to the future, where am I going to be whether I was a teenager or in my 20s, before I was with Scott, I never pictured myself in my New York penthouse with somebody. It was
Oh,
just
that's so
me.
interesting.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I never, even as a kid, I had planned to be an airline pilot and then I was going to be a veterinarian and never thought about family or a partner at all in my kind of visions of the future.
that's
Just
very interesting.
yeah, right?
Yeah.
Let's ask the second question because this one's even more fun. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Hoo-ah. You know what? You field that one first. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, Tom?
Okay, so 5 years, that's a lot can happen in 5 years.
Mhm,
you
sure
know
can. Yes.
um and I think we have to step aside of politics because we don't really know what's going to be happening politically and how that's going to change our lives, but stepping aside from that, 5 years from now, definitely I'm going to be retired and not working, but I do have to do something. I have to be I'm an active person. I love all of my philanthropic work, so I'm going to obviously continue doing that and traveling. I We were just talking about this the other night. I thought it would be really a great thing to do to stay in the states, but only the blue states, obviously, and go to cities that I don't really know and like live there for a month. Just kind of like really see how people live in these cities. And I don't know. I love Europe, and of course we're going to travel there as well. But I think it would be kind of fun to do something like that. But then again, as we said, you never know what's going to happen.
So
So
would
I
you guys like get a Winnebago
oh
and do the driving
oh
thing?
oh no, that's never happening. I have in my head thought like, oh yeah, that would be so cool to do and get that Winnebago. But you know me, Michael, that's never going to happen.
I know that's why I
Yeah,
asked.
no.
But how about like a car? Do a road trip and you could still stay in hotels along the way, right?
Yeah. I mean, if
Because then
sure.
you get to see stuff that you probably wouldn't have otherwise seen on the flybys.
Well, that's definitely true, but
Yeah.
if you have to drive through any red state, not happening. I don't even want to buy gas in those states. At least right now. Who knows in 5 years what's going to happen? Might totally change.
Absolutely.
What about you? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
So unfortunately for me, I can't put politics aside. So I do
Okay.
see some activism coming back into my life and some major involvement of some sort. I'm not exactly sure what that's going to be. We'll
Right.
find out together. Um, but it's interesting because I thought that chapter of my life was over and done with, um, but apparently it's not, and I'm kind of ready for another round, and to do whatever I have to do to make sure our community is safe and protected, and that's a big aspect for me.
Yeah.
And another one is I just started up my own small business and kind of interested to see where that goes. It's not something I ever thought I would do, but it's been an adventure. And,
Awesome.
like I said earlier, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, because it's been all
Sure.
over the place. But who knows?
Right.
I leave the door open for anything that comes along
Right.
while trying to focus and be where I am in the moment as well. So,
I think something you said is kind of interesting. A lot of gay men over 50, definitely over 60 and 70, did fight, did a lot of fighting to get where we are today. And now a lot of those guys are retired and have a lot of time on their hands. So might it would be interesting to see if they all take the fight up again,
yeah,
you know?
it,
Or
it, it
at
will be
least
because you know what? We've walked the battlefield.
right.
We know this route. And, I think experience in this case is hugely beneficial.
Especially
So,
to teach the younger queer
absolutely.
community
Yeah.
about the fight, you
Because
know?
there's a couple of decades where they didn't have to. And it's going to be interesting to, I can't wait to see, them take this battle up on their own. I cannot wait.
Sure.
But I'm also willing, if I got to be on the front line, I will,
Okay.
because we don't have that much life in front of us. So if we got to be the first to fall, I'm all for it. Let's do
Okay.
it, and hopefully come out the other end of this unscathed and better for it.
Okay, cool. So I've got a couple questions. That same questions I posed in our first question, but now about retirement and seeing ourselves in 5 years or looking forward. Is it different for gay people than it is for straight people? Because usually, gay people our age and older don't have children. Some do,
Right.
obviously. So they're not planning their retirement years around their children and grandchildren and where they're going to be. And a lot of us have left our families for certain reasons. So retirement is not also surrounding family. So is that a is this next 5 years different for someone who is gay? Do you think?
Hmm. That's a big question. I know the people who I speak to, and my friend group, and the people I meet just through the small business I'm starting. Um, I It seems like we don't want to stop. We don't want to retire. We don't want to become,
Right,
that person who sits in the Barca lounger watching TV. That, so many of the guys I know are active and want to stay active.
right.
And maybe that's maybe that's part of the gift we were given, that we still feel like we're vital and we still have a lot to contribute. And yeah, I don't know anybody who's like, "Oh, I can't wait to retire and just sit on my butt and, eat
Yeah.
bonbons."
Well, I mean,
Like you guys. I mean, like you said, you do a lot of volunteer work, and you're
yeah,
gonna continue to do that and be productive, right?
right.
Yeah.
Well, my husband, I think I mentioned this before too, though, has just retired and took a class on kind of how do you retire because and he took it at the LGBTQ plus center and met a bunch of other gay men who all are trying to figure it out because after working every day for 45 or whatever years it was to all of a sudden not have anything to do or not have anywhere to go or not not be bringing in those checks and like they're just all confused like wow now what I
Should we
do
take that word retirement out of our vocabulary and just think of it as the next chapter? Because
well
retirement it sounds like, somebody's gonna put you away in a closet on a shelf, and
and
that's
that's
kind of it.
I mean, I know a lot of people who love being retired. They're not on their Barcalounger. They're not away in a home somewhere. They're out living really amazing lives. Um, maybe in 5 years, you might be like, you know what? I'm looking forward to retiring. Who knows what's going to happen, right? We might,
And not to this day, you don't,
yeah, we might
I don't think I
embrace.
would refer to it as retirement, though. I just
Okay,
don't,
yeah,
you know?
great. Then
It's
let's.
like retiring that pair of fat jeans that you have, it's I don't that was happy retirement. I don't see me retiring, honestly.
Okay, cool.
Do you think you'll ever just sort of sit back and go, "Ugh, I
I
just need a break. I need to
I
rest."
personally am not that person. Even if I'm not working, I have to be always doing something. My husband is like, please sit down. And I'm like, oh, I can do 12 things right now. So I'm never going to be that person who just gives up and does nothing. But not working, yeah, that could be okay. Like I said, I'm phasing that out of my life, slowly, but not having that pressure on, like, oh, I've got to do this, or this project has to be finished, or even in, some of my philanthropic work, I have that pressure and I'm like, oh, why did I take on this project? Oh, that I don't want this stuff pressure anymore. So maybe I will find my retirement in a very non-pressure place. Who knows? Who knows where that'll
Yeah,
be in
just doing,
5
just doing something on our terms, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Now, here's the final question that I asked. Is there anything we can do in our lives now to change? If we're not happy where we are, like this isn't what I thought I'd be at this age, or, if I am seeing the next 5 years and it's not exactly what I want, is there anything that we can do now at this age to change our trajectory?
I think you have to be proactive because, a couple of examples that I use, Grandma Moses didn't start painting until she was in her 70s or 80s.
There you go.
Jerry Van Dyke, who never had a big career, got his big break on Coach at the age of 63. Judge Judy is a perfect example of somebody who, you know, worked her butt off her whole life, had the
Right.
9 to 5 judge job in the courts in New York. And then all of a sudden the world opens up for her and she just goes, why not?
Right.
And look at her, the richest woman in Hollywood.
I definitely agree that there is never a time to give up, never time that you shut down. As I said, I am constantly reinventing myself. And something you mentioned earlier about, you know, getting out there and fighting and being activists again. And then my head just went to, okay, let's create a program where we get these retired men who were part of ACT UP or whatever to teach this younger queer community how actually to do it. Like there are things like that like we can be doing, not going to work, but we're still being productive. We're still adding to our society, to our community. So yeah, there are always things like that we can find that we could be doing.
You know what I'm hoping the gay and lesbian centers around the country are going to do?
Hmm.
Like your husband went to a class about retiring. How about an activism 101? How to get our youth involved in
Right.
what to do, how to be a peaceful protester, how to do civil disobedience. There were, when I was with ACT UP, we were not always peaceful.
Right.
Um, you know, and if you got arrested, you got arrested, but people paid attention. And that's what we have to remind our generation is that we did that.
So then let's do that. Like right in my head, I'm already creating what I'm bringing to the, Mike, the head of our center. Like I'm going to have that meeting. I'm going to like present this, which
Good.
is great. I'll bring you in because you have the activist.
Yeah.
You know,
I would love
that would be
to
such an
do something
amazing
like
thing to
that.
do,
Look
right?
at that. Just in this half hour,
There
we
you
just
go,
came up,
right?
we threw open a door and let's walk through it because that would be a remarkable thing to do.
Okay, so here's a question for you personally.
And if
So
you
you do mention every once in a while that you would like to be in a relationship.
Mhm.
Think it's too late?
Until well, I don't want to be buried. Until I'm cremated and my ashes are thrown off the coast of Provincetown, I'm not going to think it's too late.
Yeah,
I'm just not going to go there.
right. No, I agree. We just had to go to a wedding of someone in their 70s
That's
who,
amazing.
yeah, they had lost their partners. They're obviously our relationship people and wanted to get back into a relationship. So, yeah, those things are all like just because we're at a certain age, just because you didn't achieve whatever goal doesn't mean you still can't.
Absolutely.
We might be old, but we're not dead. We can still dream. We can still create whatever we want. Obviously there are things that we can't do at this age, but
Oh, I can't become a professional tennis player.
no, you
Yeah.
cannot.
Wah.
No, no. I had a meeting. I'm an image consultant with actors, and I was meeting with this actor in his 50s, unbelievably good looking, amazing body. I mean, that's all he does is just work on his body. And he's like, "Yeah, I want to be Superman." I'm like, "Oh, honey, no, you
Yeah.
need to let that go." There are.
Maybe he could be Jor-El.
I don't know
Was
who
that his name?
Jor-El is.
But that was Superman's father.
Oh, oh,
Remember, what's his name?
Marlon Brando.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Played Superman's father. Why not?
Well, no, I mean that's the thing. Like you can be you, but sometimes you have to let go of certain dreams and goals. But here we are at this age. It's time for new dreams. It's time for new goals, whatever those may be. Never
And
ever.
it's never too late to set them, right?
I agree. And the thing is, if people are listening to us and thinking like, yeah, this is not where I wanted to be at this age. Okay, well then let's change something. Let's
And really, it has to be baby steps because it can be overwhelming.
right.
Change is rough,
Yeah,
for all of us. Like you guys took that leap of faith to move to Palm Springs, not something you ever thought you would do,
right.
right? Seems to have worked out pretty well, right?
So far, so good.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it was bumpy when you first got here because, we've talked about that, but
right.
now you're thriving.
Yeah, it's all great, right? And for you too, thinking, oh, I'm going to start a business. Well, you've got to start a business, when you're 30. You can't be starting it at 60. No, who said that? And look at you. Here we are. We're starting a business, and who knows where it's going to take you. But having that, just having that experience is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean,
And fortunately, we have a lot of road behind us, so our experiences in life do matter. And if we use those experiences to continue to propel ourselves forward, I, it doesn't have to stop until, we stop,
okay.
take the big dirt nap, as it were. Keep
Mm,
going, man. Right. What?
the big dirt nap.
Dirt nap. Oh,
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the very first question I asked, is this it? Is this
no.
very good?
Hard no. Hard no.
Excellent. Yeah.
And for you, is this it?
Of course not. It is what it is right at this moment.
Right.
And what's going to be forward or in front of me is what I choose to make it. I can change my pathway, I can change my trajectory, or I can be open to things I never even thought about. And here's another thing, too, though. Yeah, this isn't where I thought I would be, but I am making the most of it. And I think that's what we have to do as well.
Yep.
Like, yeah, maybe I'm not king of the world and sitting on gazillions of dollars and whatever else people might have expected at this age, but gratitude for whatever it is you do have, and kind of changing that mindset of like, okay, so maybe that didn't happen, but this ain't so bad, you know, wherever you are. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes complete
Yeah,
sense. And again, because life throws a lot of shit at you. And you have two
true.
options: to sit down and just stop, or you continue to press on. And let's be real, the older we get, it does get a little more challenging, but what's the alternative?
Ain't that the truth, right?
Yeah,
And I
totally.
choose not that. I choose to keep moving forward and accepting where I am in life, accepting who I am now, accepting this body that I have, and just trying to be the best whatever I can be, and maybe make some changes to who knows what. So yeah, I think it's kind of exciting actually. Instead of no, it
No,
is
it
exciting.
is. There's a whole lot of fear that comes with that, but fear's a
Sure.
good thing. Fear's a good thing, right?
Well, that's the thing. Like, you get to make your choice. You want to sit and wallow and be like, "Oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be," or, "Okay, so it's not as what I thought it was be going to be, but you know what? Maybe I could do something else that would be even better, or whatever." Just keep moving
And allow
forward.
yourself the speed bumps along the way. There will be
Ah,
failures just like there were when we were younger, you
there.
know? They add up, but you just keep that in mind that
Yeah,
failure's okay,
yeah.
but don't let it defeat you.
No, nothing will. Because we're strong, we're gay, we're men over 50. We can do anything.
Wait, you're gay?
I know. Sorry.
Oh, wow. Okay. That just changed everything.
I'm sorry. All right. All right. So great. So let's hear from all our guys out there. Where are you in all these questions? Are you where you thought you would be? Are you somewhere completely different? And where do you see yourself in 5 years? And what can we all be doing to make those next years, decades, whatever, the best that we can make them to be? So reach out and let us know.
Please
And
do, because we love to hear it, and we love to hear the conversations you guys start.
right.
And if you want to reach out to us, we are everywhere you are on social media except for X. And if you want to send us a more personal message, please feel free at no2gaysaboutit@gmail.com. And just remember, it's the number 2.
You can also find us over at Patreon if you're interested. It's a great way to support our show. It's also a great place to create this community of men like us and all kind of talk to each other. So if you're interested, you can jump over to Patreon and learn about that. And we've got some amazing guys over there who are supporting our show, don't we?
Yeah, we really do. We want to send out a very special thank you to the guys over there who support us at our executive producer level. And that is Lauren Javier, John Bonasante, Jason Cruz, Kurt Bremer, and Ted Zalewski. Thank you guys for the faith you put in us. As always, words don't express what it means to us.
Yeah, we are so grateful for you, but we are also grateful for all of you guys out there and women who are listening to us and reaching out to us and telling us your stories. We love them. Okay, so
let me do a quick shout out since you brought that up, because we do have a number of straight women and straight allies, men as well, who comment and reach out to us. And seriously, guys, at this point where we are in our history, we need that. So thank you so much for the support.
Right. Really appreciate it. Okay, so let's get going. Let's go keep forging forward for all of you. It's a big task, but we can do it. All right.
We can.
Until next time, Michael.
Until next time, Tom, thank you. And thank you guys for listening.